Hi, welcome or welcome back. My name is Ada and I'm a knitter living in Norway. Today I want to talk a little bit about this kind of uh, copyright drama that's been going on in the knitting community in the recent some weeks. And while I do that, I'm gonna be knitting on the Rowena jumper sleeve and trying to get that finished. So yeah, just a little recap of what's been going on. Uh, it came to my attention that on another platform, people have been sharing patterns of other designers, uh, patterns that are usually paid for, and they were just distributing them freely. And I have found out about this mainly because the designer behind Fable Knitwear has been really vocal about this, and she's been really trying to get those forums closed down and asking the platforms to take responsibility as well as the users. And I think she's done a really great job, and that is quite some effort on her part. And I just wanted to address a few points that kind of came up. I just think I have some opinions that might be worth having a look at, and also regarding what kind of the users that have been sharing them have been saying. So I'm just gonna start by explaining to you kind of my journey with paid for patterns and pattern sharing since I've started knitting. So when I started knitting 10 years ago, I've been mainly knitting squares and rectangles. So like there's like no patterns involved. And once I started knitting my knitting garments, I have to admit my main motivation, but a big motivation was to spend as little money as possible. I was also like not I did not have so much disposable income that I could spend on expensive yarns or many patterns, and I had a very, let's call it a fast fashion approach to paying for patterns, because I I was still very much in the mindset of that when I knit a sweater, it should be as cheap or cheaper, because I have to make it, right, than what I would get in the store. And you can get very cheap sweaters in many stores, right? So my thought was, why on earth would I spend, you know, $5, $6, $7 or euros uh, on a pattern if I can basically get a sweater on a discount, on some sale. I could probably get a sweater like this. So like, why would I pay for that? Because I have to pay for the yarn and also make it myself. Like, that is absolutely ridiculous. This is what I thought initially, right? In my first like maybe year or so of trying to make garments. And I have never like uh, taken a shared pattern. Actually, that's something that's been paid for and I didn't pay for it. I have used mainly free patterns. For example, Drops has a whole database of free patterns. Whether you like them or not, that's like a separate issue. But there are options, and there's many designers that put out patterns for free on Ravelry and other places. So the world is full of paid for of free patterns if you don't want to pay for it, right? This has also been kind of like a slight deterrent for me to not start making patterns uh, to be sold, because there are so many free patterns. So like kind of the market feels kind of almost saturated, right? So kind of yeah, I was always able to find a pattern that a free pattern that I could use, because that was important to me to not spend a lot of money uh, on this hobby. And as the years went on, I started to purchase patterns, and yeah, like I use sometimes purchase patterns. I sometimes use free patterns. I sometimes rent a book from the library with patterns in it. And yeah, I would just never go and take like take a pattern from some forum where somebody's been basically stealing other people's work. So that's just kind of the background of my journey and where I've been at and how my mindset has changed regarding paid for patterns. Uh, However, it is a big yeah, I don't even know how to kind of describe this. I cannot imagine taking a pattern and putting it out on let's call it a dark corner of the internet, and just without thinking about how it's gonna impact the designer. Yeah, so kind of like that's one point. Another point is I have much higher appreciation for pattern designers and pattern writers, because over the years I kind of have made enough stuff that I understand how much work goes into designing, writing, grading each pattern. For example, for me it kind of sounds like I thought it was a bit silly that some designers will sell patterns separately for mm, the same sweater, but children and adults, or um, and it's like, why not just make it into one pattern, right? It's like, because it's a lot of work, because the grading is a lot of work, because maybe you need to make adjustments, because children and adult women and adult men have vastly different bodies, and it's a lot of work to make sure that things fit, right? So I I very much understand why patterns cost what they cost, and also with prices of everything going up, it is not those are not ridiculous prices most of the time, and yeah. So what like regarding the pricing, also I kind of want to come back to like my earliest experiences. I was really, really, really trying to keep the cost down. So if I got really, really, really cheap yarn and I got it on some kind of big discount, I would not pay for a pattern that costs almost as much as the yarn, right? So yeah, like I've said before, I have purchased some yarn for like 75 Danish kroner, and it was 10 balls of 50 grams, so 500 grams of yarn. And at the same time, some of the like petite knits patterns cost 50 krona, right? So it is a little bit kind of depends how you put it in what perspective. It can like I don't think it's the prices of patterns are prohibitive, but I do think that depends on how you buy your yarn and how you think about how much a sweater should cost. That can be a little conflict in like in your mind whether you should buy a pattern or not. However, like I said, since kind of since I've been in this doing this hobby for many years, I have definitely appreciated the work that designers do, and I am happy to pay for patterns, because uh, it's a lot of work, and it should be paid for, right? So I do think that yes, if you want to sell patterns, that's perfectly fine, and what price you put on it is just reflective. Oh, sorry for that. Is usually probably reflective of the amount of work that you've put in it. However, what I want to just kind of discuss further is the gray area of sharing patterns. So I don't think that you can take a PDF of a pattern and just put it out on some forum and just consider yourself a caring person because you just want to share and you don't want to gatekeep. But at the same time, there are kind of more gray area parts to it. So, for example, you can find pattern books at the library, right? And you can go and use that for free. You're not paying for the pattern. Of course, the book's been purchased by the library, and so that's absolutely fine, right? The designer has been compensated, but then if you're using it, right, like you haven't paid for it, but you are part of the library, so you can use it, right? And then if you have a book of patterns, then if your friend looks at the book and says, oh, I would like to knit that, wouldn't you lend them that book, right? So you, like, they have not paid for the pattern, but you have paid for the pattern, and you can make as many things out of that book as you want, right? And then you can give away the book, or you can sell the book to somebody, and you're like, that person is not compensating the designer again, right? So it's I think it's a little bit of a difficulty regarding kind of we are still stuck on the digital versus physical books and patterns, and of course you can't, like, you can, but you're probably not going to photocopy the book and make a book and spread it around to everybody, right? But when you put it out online, like, nothing could be easier, right? You just upload and then it's out there, and the only thing stopping you from doing this is your own conscience. And that is very interesting to me. And from what I understand, someone involved in the pattern sharing has accused designers of putting too high prices and gatekeeping. And I completely understand the notion that, like, you want to share the craft and everybody should be able to learn this craft, and at low cost or no cost, and should be able to get patterns. However, like I said, there is plenty of resources, plenty of free patterns available everywhere. Again, online, on Ravelry, in your library, there's plenty of those, and you just kind of have to, like, be okay with that. If you want to knit a pattern from a specific designer, like, why wouldn't you want to support them, right? You want them to produce more of the designs you like, so why not support them? And I understand that it can add up if you buy too many patterns, but again, realistically, how many patterns are you knitting in a year or in a month? How much money are we spending on other indulgences or other hobbies? €5 for a pattern or €7 for a pattern. It's like, it can sound like a lot because what you're getting is a piece of paper or a PDF, and you still have to go and make that thing, right? But at the same time, it's, I don't know, it's again the price of coffee somewhere, and like I don't want to sound like, oh, I have money, and when I was poor I didn't want to pay, and now I'm okay with paying, because I understand how that sounds. But what I'm saying is that we are not talking about, like, €100 for a pattern. Even the pattern books are, most often 20-30 euro. So it can be a lot, but it is worth it. And if you're not willing to pay, then again, there are ways. There are libraries, there are discounts, there are thrift stores, there are, I don't know, maybe your grandma's or someone has some old patterns. Like, again, I understand if you want to make a specific thing, it sucks if you can't get it, or if you don't want to pay for it, or if you feel like you don't afford it. I understand. But you know, it's like if you think about maybe some, I don't want to compare patterns to a luxury bag, or some other luxury item. But if I can't afford some luxury expensive item, you know, I just have to either find something else that works just as well, or I have to figure out how to, you know, use something like something else, and how to use some other materials, or maybe buy it from a different brand. You know, if you no one is giving anyone anything for free these days, and I'm just kind of surprised that we expect designers to give out patterns for free. Like, if when it's their full-time job, how do we expect them to continue like this, right? And yeah, I just want to finish it, my little rant on the note that I am in the process of writing patterns, and I've been thinking a lot about this, about sharing patterns. And yeah, it would really suck if people were just giving my patterns away for free, and I was not compensated for it. Like, I appreciate the fact that somebody wants to knit something I've written, but at the same time, you know, like I want to make this for the community, but also it's a lot of work to make patterns. And I just feel like there is some kind of middle ground where we can all meet. And yeah, I don't know why is it so hard for everybody to kind of be on the same page here. Yes, I really hope that people don't steal these patterns anymore, because again, it is very sad for the designers. And if the designers stop designing, like, I think guess everybody's losing on that one. So like, if you really like someone, just buy their patterns, knit their patterns, tell other people that this is what you've made and where they can find it. And yeah, I really hope that what I've said is not like too controversial. But I have heard a couple other YouTubers discussing the topic, and I really just haven't, you know, there hasn't been anybody that said that, oh yeah, they support pattern stealing, right? This is not something that you're just gonna say. And furthermore, um, the only people that I have seen kind of saying that like they are okay with pattern stealing and sharing and further distributing are people that just kind of lurk anonymously somewhere. Like, they, you know, it's not the people on YouTube where they put their face forward and say, yes, you know, I feel that this is correct because, you know, we're doing this for the community or whatever, like we're gonna steal and kind of give it back to the people, like kind of Robin Hood style. That's not what's happening. It's people who are just kind of like um not sharing their face, not sharing their name, and they just say that they'll continue doing it because that's just what they feel like doing. So that's just like the last thought that I want to finish on is just most people who are supportive members of this community feel like pattern stealing is not okay. And we just hope that that we can just continue, and people who make patterns, they will just get compensated and not leave us, because that would be just sad. So give your designers some love, and I'll see you in the next one.